All right, let's talk about something fascinating. Where do those huge, world-changing ideas really come from? We're going to dive into the minds of people who build empires from scratch and also uncover some secret innovators hiding inside the world's biggest companies. Let's jump right in. Think about any major brand name you can, any product you use every single day. Behind all of them, there was once just one person with one simple idea. It's like a tiny spark that somehow, against all odds, just catches fire and grows into this massive thing. It's really the classic story of innovation, isn't it?
Okay, I know, that sounds weird, but you gotta stick with me on this one, because this bizarre question, it gets right to the heart of what makes a creative mind tick. I mean, how do you even get from a piece of poultry to a brand new product?
So let's go ahead and solve this chicken foot mystery. We're going to look at a real-world example that shows perfectly how innovators see opportunity where, the rest of us just see, well, garbage.
The creativity here is just mind-blowing. So get this. In 2017, an entrepreneur in Indonesia looks at the waste from fast food restaurants and sees a luxury material. His company, Herka, literally takes discarded chicken feet, processes them almost like leather, and turns them into these amazing high-end sneakers. This is the definition of turning trash into treasure.
The person behind an idea like this, well, they have a special name, an intrapreneur. And at its core, that's just someone who sees an opportunity, figures out how to make it real, and, this is the most important part, is willing to take on all the financial risk to make it happen. So what is it that sets these people apart? Is it just some special way of thinking? Let's dig into the unique traits that so many of these successful founders seem to share. First things first, it's vision. Entrepreneurs have this almost unbreakable belief in their idea, especially when pretty much everyone else is telling them they're crazy. I mean, can you imagine pitching a chicken shoe company to a loan officer? You need some serious self-belief to push through that kind of skepticism. Now, of course, it's a fine line. That same belief can make founders ignore good advice. But honestly, without it, most great ideas would die before they even got started. This image just says it all, right? Think of an entrepreneur as this lone red pawn. They are standing firm, totally convinced, while the whole world seems to be moving in the other direction. They're okay with being the outsider because they can see a future that other people just can't see yet. But, belief isn't the whole story. They also have to be resilient, able to handle setbacks and learn when things go wrong. And they're not just gamblers. They are professional risk takers. They weigh their decisions carefully. On top of all that, they have to be willing to do, well, everything. One day you're the CEO, the next you're doing the accounting, and through it all, they are just intensely driven by that feeling of hitting their goals.
So just take a second and look at this list. Resilience, calculated risks, a drive for results. Do any of these sound like you? You might just have a bit more of that entrepreneurial spirit than you think.
And that brings us to a huge question. If it's this stressful, this demanding, why on earth would anyone choose to do this? Let's break down that high-stakes calculation every founder has to make.
Well, the motivations are pretty powerful. The big one, of course, you're your own boss. You call the shots. Then there's the money. If the business takes off, the profits are yours. But beyond that, there's this huge personal satisfaction in building something from absolutely nothing. And of course, the dream of having real flexibility in how and when you work.
Okay, this matrix shows the trade-off perfectly. See, most people live in the low-risk zones, a savings account, right? But an entrepreneur, they operate squarely in that bottom right box, high risk, high reward. They know they could lose it all, but they're betting on a massive, massive payoff.
And just how massive can that payoff be? Well, when the founders of YouTube sold their little video sharing site to Google, this was the price tag, $1.65 billion. That is the ultimate example of a high-risk bet paying off in a way you can barely imagine. But what about the company that bought YouTube? Innovation doesn't just happen in garages.
And that brings us to a different kind of innovator, a really powerful force for change who doesn't have to risk everything they own. These are the rebels, working from the inside of huge corporations.
Say hello to the intrapreneur. These are employees who are given the freedom and, more importantly, the company resources to invent new things and challenge the way things are done. Think of an engineer at a big tech company who gets a budget for some secret project that ends up becoming their next billion-dollar product. They get to be creative, they get to take risks, but they aren't risking their own money. So let's put them side by side because the difference is huge. The entrepreneur on the left takes all the personal risk for all the potential reward. The intrapreneur on the right uses company money and gets a salary. But it's no easy ride for them either. They have to fight all that corporate red tape and convince layers of bosses to back their crazy idea. One builds from nothing, the other has to innovate inside a giant machine. They're just two very different paths to innovation.
So, whether you're an entrepreneur starting out in your garage or an intrapreneur fighting the good fight inside a big company, the path of innovation is never easy. Let's look at the real-world obstacles that stand in the way and how the great ones somehow manage to break through anyway.
I mean, the challenges can feel huge. It's incredibly hard to get money because, let's face it, banks see new businesses as a giant risk. Then there's all the government paperwork and taxes. And in some cultures, if your business fails, you're seen as a failure, period. Plus, sometimes you literally aren't allowed to compete with big government-run industries.
So how do you possibly succeed against all of that?
Okay, I have one last story for you, and this one is about something simple, a single perfect chocolate cake. It's the story of a founder who was told her idea was a guaranteed failure.
Lin Lee from Singapore had this idea to open a shop called Awfully Chocolate, and it would sell just one thing, a dark chocolate cake. No variety, nothing else. Everybody, and I mean her friends, her suppliers, everybody, told her she would be bankrupt in 3 months. But remember that vision and resilience we talked about? She completely ignored them. And today, she has 17 stores across Asia. She proved that one powerful, focused idea can break through every single barrier.
And that really leaves us with a final thought. We've seen entrepreneurs turn garbage into fashion and build an entire empire from a single dessert. What it proves is that world-changing ideas are so often hiding in the simplest, most overlooked places right in front of us. The only question is, who's going to be the one to see them first?